I think you guys are on mute. I don't know if anyone's talking.
Quick little intro and then we'll get rolling. Happy Tuesday to everyone. Glad to have everyone here on Zoom and in person. We have the good fortune of having two of our top producers and top leaders in this office, Nikki Baskin and Rod Watson, both on our Agent Leadership Council. And for those that don't know that, that's like our board of directors. We meet multiple times a month to always, commit to raising the bar in this office culturally, education, training, all of that. And that's a big part of Keller Williams, and particularly this office, is that we are very much a culture of collaboration. And as I always say, none of us is as smart as all of us. So this specifically is in a series of how to lead generate for listings. That's the broad sort of idea around this, because we're always trying to get very, very listing focused. And fortunately, these guys happen to be really, really strong amongst many things in the marketing, the lead gen, the basically the social media piece. So they are always committed to helping all of us, sharing what they're doing, and here we are. So thank you, Rod. Thank you, Nikki. You guys are awesome. I'll let you guys take it from here, and appreciate your time and appreciate it.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good. Hopefully we're getting off to a good October. I know things have been crazy with the mask and the mandates and everything, but we're all still plugging along, and it's great to be a part of a good culture here where Josh keeps the energy high, positivity, and we can have this type of environment to collaborate. So Josh asked me to share with you guys some of the things I've used to build a presence online and social media, steps that I've taken to actually generate leads. Because when I first started generating leads, I was freaking excited, like, oh, my phone's blowing up, I'm getting leads. And what I also realized is that, you should be working to build your community of the type of clients you want to work with, not just trying to work with everybody. And I realized when I was generating a ton of leads, like some of these people, I don't give a damn how much money they have or if they're really, serious. I just don't like them, And I think that's important. You should work with people you like, people that you respect, and vice versa, the people that like you and that respect you. So what we're going to talk about today is how to actually build your own community of the type of clients you want to work with, or I use the term attract, right? Ideally that are attracted to what you're putting out. And when I went through a series of spending thousands of dollars generating leads, I learned through trial and error, there's a certain type of way you want to market it to get listings, because it's one thing to get followers, which we can talk about that all day. But at the end of the day, that is cool, that's important. But if they're not buying shit, doesn't matter, right? If they're not selling anything, it doesn't matter. It's great to have those relationships with those people, don't get me wrong. But if you're in business to do business, then you want to be able to generate some form of, business from the audience that you're working to attract. And so what I had to do after generating a bunch of followers was actually work backwards and say, how do I attract the people that I want to be in front of? So through, several, trial and error, different campaigns, I basically started to focus on building my community from an attraction standpoint, right? Attracting the people that I either know already, or the people that are in the circles of the individuals I want to become more connected with. And so what I had to do is build basically a database of names, emails, and phone numbers. Now this was like 2013, 14 when I started this, okay? So you guys are getting the blueprint of what led me to where I am today. Now what's great is that you can get names, phone numbers, and emails pretty much like that. The guy Brandon sitting over there, he can get your name, phone numbers, and emails just like that. So the next step is, what do you do with that data? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm not sure if you guys can see the board. But Nikki and I are going to kind of dive into some of the best practices that we've both used on social media to generate business. Primarily, specifically for me, it's been listings as well as Nikki. So what I have here is the automation steps to take to acquire listings. And of course, you can use this strategy to also generate buyer leads. I just prefer listings because I think we all know sometimes buyers, they can drive you freaking nuts, and oftentimes they don't end up buying anything. Whereas if you can secure a seller in a listing, you got greater odds of, in this market, the house selling, and you really don't have to do much, but just, focus on the primary things that get home sold. That's the marketing, answering your phone, communicating with, inquiries and so on and so forth. So starting.
I'm curious real quick.
Yep.
How many of you have CRMs? And do you know what a CRM is?
Everybody's got one on command.
So exactly, everybody has one through command if you're utilizing it. So
So how many are utilizing it is more the question Nikki's asking.
Utilizing the command or the?
Any CRM.
any CRM.
Cool.
So a CRM, if you don't know, it's a database. It's a system that helps you to put in all your names and then do all the marketing automatically without you having to take too much of your personal time into doing this. You create templates and then it just happens automatically for you.
CRM stands for Client Relationship Manager. So just so you know, a lot of people, so it's a way to communicate systematically with your database.
Yeah.
So speaking of CRM, which is command, we all have access to that, and it's a great tool. And once I got here, it took me about a year to really figure out how to leverage and use it to my benefits. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're talking about building a community where you can be an authority and build influence to the people you ideally want to work with. So what I did starting out is I focused on building what's called a digital farm. Everybody is familiar with farming, right? That's where you're going to canvas and farm a neighborhood, a community of sellers, or property, I shouldn't say sellers, but property owners that you're working towards building a relationship. So when they think about selling or they decide to sell, they're reaching out to you. So you typically, when you set up a farm, you're going to identify 200, 300, 500,000 homes. I usually like to say starting out, you want to keep it between 200 and 500. And when you actually are going into farms, you're having to print a lot of market materials. So you're going to send printed, newsletter. You're going to send market updates, basically informing the community of what's happening as far as pending sold, active listings, what's sold off market, what's coming soon. Those things where you're kind of like the local news reporter for that community. But that can be costly when you're first starting out. And you're going to make a big upfront investment. I know this because I've done it. And it usually takes 2 to 3 years to see a return. In some places, I've known ages where it's taken as long as 10 years to see a return.
Absolutely.
So not everybody can start out that way because it can get very expensive, quick and fast. So the digital aspect, living in the world that we are in today, is perfect because what I figured was that, okay, I did this with the sphere that I had. I took all the names, phone numbers, and email addresses, and then we uploaded them into Facebook. Well, you can do that in command now, very simple and easy, and we'll get into how you do that. So the first thing you want to do is start building your list so you can present what I call value and brand awareness ads to these individuals, right? Because if you want to attract people, the old methods of just reaching out and saying, are you ready to buy a home, or are you ready to sell your home? It's pretty daunting. These individuals get hit up all day with people coming up to with generic, approaches to selling real estate. And quite honestly, they don't want to freaking talk to us. So what you want is people that are contacting you because you're offering them some form of value through your ads. So when you set up these digital farms, what you want to do is you want to identify in the beginning, I say 2 to 3 zip codes, tops. 2 usually max, so you can start there. But if you're going to want to go to 3, you want to start with communities that you sold in, or your office is currently selling in, or you live in, or you're very familiar with, meaning you know the culture that's going on there, you studied the market, you know what's happening as far as what properties are trading for. Exactly. You have a passion for the community, you know about the schools. All of those things are important because listen, you got to put a lot of energy in this and time. So you don't want to focus on a neighborhood that you're not going to be able to maintain the level of consistency that's required when it comes to establishing this digital form.
Also, when you start marketing, if you don't have a true passion and a true interest for the neighborhood, you won't seem authentic.
Correct.
So, right.
Yeah, and that's 100% right. So as I stated, these should be areas that you're familiar with. So once you identify and you secure those zip codes. Then you want to go to someone like Brandon over here and say, hey, listen, I've got 3 zip
I
codes.
can't hear you. Is it,
Can you hear me now?
We'll speak louder.
So you want to go to, you want to go to 2
But it's
or,
true, I mean, when you're online, hearing people here is not easy.
sorry about that, John. Hopefully you can hear me now. So you want to go to Brandon and you want to identify, okay, you want him to help you identify these zip codes. You don't want to hit everybody, because in a zip code, you could have 10,000 homes here in LA, 5,000 homes, or 3,000 homes. So what you want to identify is the properties that, what I did is I focused on property owners that lived out of state or out of area. We call this non-owner occupied. And what we focus on is that they've owned the property at least 5 years or more, and they've got 20% or more of equity. Why non-owner occupied sellers? Most people might ask, well, they don't have an emotional attachment to the property. It's about business for them. Either they've had a life change situation where they've had to move out of area, or they're investors and they own properties that they're either renting or they're doing short-term rentals, whatever the case may be. They could have family members living in them. However, those people I found typically are easy to talk to deal with, and they will be responsive if you're offering value to them, which I'll touch back on when we talk about value adds. But that's a great target audience to start with, regardless of what zip code you're targeting. Anywhere, focus on those out of area. And what you'll find is that that list will be small. You might have 100, 150 within 1,000 or 2,000. You might have 50, or you might have 200 within 3,000 or 5,000 homes. And that's easy to tackle. So once you have those, you want to tag them and identify them as your, whatever that zip code is. If it's Hollywood 90069, non-owner occupied 5 years or more, right? And if you want to get real technical, then you want to maybe go to the bedrooms, right? I only want to focus on what's selling. 4 bedrooms are hot right now. So when you're having that conversation and you're sending out your content through social media to these individuals talking about how hot the market is and how 4 bedrooms are in demand, and we have buyers for this product, contact us today. I think what you'll find is people will become engaged with that type of content, because you're keeping them informed on what's going on with the market, right? And at the same time, you're giving them the freedom and choice to decide if they want to engage with you. I come from the approach to attract. I got off of chasing people 7 years ago. And I don't talk bad about people who choose to do that. That works for me. I found way more success taking this approach. So when we talk about value adds, one of the things I use as a value add for sellers is what's called insider secrets. Oops, let me turn this around. I don't know, we can't pull this up on the board, but it's basically called 7 insider secrets to selling your home.
Are you trying to share stuff on there?
No, we just decided we'd keep it here because we couldn't do both.
Okay,
We couldn't do both where we could have this up and
you can do
project
both.
it. Well, if we can, that's great.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, we should, because
yeah,
people
that's-
at home would be able to.
right, yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, hold on.
Well, while he's doing that,
What?
I'm gonna keep going forward, but while he's doing it, this is a value add.
What's it called?
It's 7 insider secrets to selling your home, okay, without spending a lot of money. So most people who are choosing to sell their properties, especially in a market where you have probably at least, I would say 30% or more of the properties here in LA are 40 plus years old, right? The problem we're having in our markets is just not enough inventory to meet the demand of buyers. And most of the younger buyers in our marketplace, they don't want to buy old raggedy rundown homes. They don't want to, and they can't afford to buy those homes and fix those homes up. So what we do is we share our 7 tips that gives the seller options and ways that they can basically make small repairs or do small fixes or enhance the value of their property with just little small things, from decluttering the house, or painting certain, kitchen rooms, things of that nature. But what we do at the end, we talk about our renewed concierge service and how that can bring value to them, right? And that catches someone's attention where they're like, you leave it up to them to say, I want to do all of this work. But then when it gets down to it, how many people really want to spend that time doing the work, especially if they're busy and they have a job? Not many. So what ends up happening is they come across the information that's in those 7 steps and realize, oh, we have a concierge service that can do all of this for you, from staging the properties to doing minor repairs to major rehabs, right? And I've gotten business from
It's
just
huge.
presenting that, right? And these are tools that we have at our office that are available to us that I had to step back and realize, like, if I'm going to go after an audience, they don't know me and I got to build my presence here, which is what I've been doing in the last 4 years. What value do I have to offer? They know a million freaking real estate agents in Los Angeles, not a shortage. So what's gonna cause give me the advantage to stand out? And just using that particular value add, and also in addition to sharing our renewed concierge service as an ad, in front of these audience of zip codes that I've just shared with you, how you can approach it and upload these into Command, I was able to generate a listing in Brentwood that we sold the property 50,000 over asking for $2.1 million. And she had a previous agent who was one of the top agents in the actual area in Brentwood. And we offered this level of value to her that wasn't offered to her from the previous agent. And guess what? That won me the listing. And this came as a referral by way through one of my contacts, because I also have uploaded my sphere. And that's the other thing I'll recommend you guys do, and that's in my notes, is you also want to upload your sphere into Command, or Facebook, which is through Command, and you want to tag them as your sphere. And you want to run ads to those people too as well, because that's how I got this individual. Is one of my contacts in my sphere. He's a wealth manager. He manages the family's portfolio. He knows everything that was going on about the sale of both the daughter and the parents' home. He saw my ad and thought this would be great for me to present to my client. So these are just examples of how brand awareness and value adds can lead you into being able to position yourself as the go-to agent for, you know, these individuals that you're targeting in a specific form or your sphere. These also can be expired. So if you work expireds, you may want to start focusing on collecting all of the names, phone numbers, and email addresses, okay? Because when you're uploading these contacts into Command, which goes into Facebook, you can either upload emails or you have to upload phone numbers. It can be vice versa. So once you upload them, what Facebook does is it identifies how many of these individuals actually have a Facebook and Instagram account. Usually it's about 60, 50% or so. So if you upload 1,000, you may get around 450 or 500 that actually are identified that have accounts on Facebook or Instagram. And then those are going to be the individuals when you start running your ads that are going to see them. Yes.
What do you mean by upload? Do you mean just friending people?
No. So what I was sharing with when you reach out to Brandon, you say you want to actually get records of property owners. What you're going to do is once they go through and give you those records, you're going to have to send them over to it's called Bullseye, and they actually handle our tech under Command Setup. It's commandsetup.com. Well, you send them that CVS, they will formulate it to where it can then be uploaded. And they'll do it. They'll put it in Command, and it'll then be uploaded into Facebook. So then when you go to run your ads, Facebook's going to ask you, do you want to target an audience or do you want to select an audience? The audience that you've already saved. So you're going to want to select that audience that you've tagged and that you've already saved as Hollywood out of area property owners.
Like Bullseye helped you with this.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're right.
Yes.
So Bullseye, again, just to reiterate, is a company that we employ here that basically is here to service all of you guys and help you integrate your contacts into Command, and they do that all free.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So when you do an ad on Facebook or Instagram, like, you know how we go through our Instagram and it says sponsor?
Mhm.
Does, for example, if I do that, does my ad as a sponsorship ad goes into my contacts? Because my contacts already see what I put on Instagram anyways, right?
Well, not
Well,
all,
what
no,
about
actually,
these
no,
doing it?
no, less than 10% of your followers are seeing what you post. So actually, they're not seeing everything you post. You may assume that, but they're not. So when you're running ads, you're ensuring that when you take your sphere or your contacts and you go to Bullseye and say, I need you to upload these phone numbers with these names and tag them as whatever name you want to tag them, and you go in the back end and you start to run your ads and you select that audience, now they're going to see your ads ongoing, showing up on their timeline. It's a big difference. So as opposed to just the general public and you're trying to get different strangers and different people to see your ads who don't know you or may not even be familiar with you, right? And you're not necessarily targeting them because they don't own a home in the area that you're looking to sell, it's gonna be better to spend your money on the audience that already knows you and likes you, or at least in a neighborhood where you're trying to break into that you're gonna maintain consistency with, and they're gonna consistently see your ads over and over and over, as long as you're spending the money to run them. So your sphere is gonna see them once you upload and tag them and you actually target those ads to
But
basically
one
be in front of them.
particular individual could be receiving like whatever it is that I posted twice. That is a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Got it.
possible, yeah. But you're ensuring that they're gonna see your stuff consistently all the time when you're running ads in front of them. And it alleviates you having to worry about posting.
But because of the Instagram algorithm, not all of your friends see all of your posts.
Correct.
Right.
So
But,
that's what he, that's.
but if you run, if
Sure.
you run
Forcing the posting.
yeah, if you run the ads, it's just like you drive down the street. That billboard is up there until somebody takes it down. You're gonna see it every time you drive down that street. Whereas when you're running those ads that are paid campaigns, that audience is gonna constantly see your ads unless they block you or shadow you and take you out.
And the audience doesn't have to be your followers either. It's anybody.
No,
Say that again?
So the audience that sees your ads doesn't necessarily have to be your followers either. You know, because
took my
since it's
computer.
a sponsored ad, it goes
Right,
out to
right.
everybody. Yeah.
Who do you use for ads?
we use Command right here.
Oh, Command.
Yep, we use Command. You can get with Carlos and Justin if you guys want to have them help you set up and create your ads. Carlos and Justin can help you with that. When I get my computer back, I'll show you what examples look like. Let you guys see that. But yeah, Carlos and Justin can help you. You had a question?
Well, yeah, going back to what you were saying with the bullseye effect, Facebook, they're always changing their formulas and the way you're able to advertise. So there used to be a way through their website, which is the business ad manager, that you could go in and be very specific the way you can through Command. But they kind of removed the total ability to do that. So the workaround is if you have title, do an exact list, absentee owners, out-of-state people own 5+ properties. You create that list in CSV in a specialized format. You give it to Command from Facebook, and they can take that list and it'll go to all those people. So the workaround is doing it here, not on Facebook, and then you can still hit that exact value.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying, you go to Bullseye and go to Command Setup, and you can do it yourself. It just takes time, right? And you can do that, or you can hire somebody and outsource it and let them do that, right? You just give them the instructions. And this is, I think, when you talk about, I've learned this, like, I have an operations manual now. So if I'm out or something happens to me, my team knows, okay, here's how you run the ads. Here's what you do. This is the process and the steps to take. So you can delegate that to, $9 an hour work, or hire a virtual assistant. Or if you got kids at home, you can teach them and show them a couple of times how to do it and pay them, and they can do that, on the weekends and upload those lists. And then Bullseye will take it from there and they'll, put it in the back. They'll upload it in the back end into Command. It'll be there when you're ready to target those ads to those individuals.
By the way, I am using a CRM right now it's called Follow Up Boss. And I'm in transition to move over to Command. And with Follow Up Boss, I'm spending thousands of dollars a year. And this is something that's part of being with KW that's for yours to take and use. So these are huge tools that we should all be taking advantage of.
And Rod's totally embraced like Command from day one. And in full candor, it's gone through, a number of like kinks, so to speak. And I think it's now at a point where it's very robust and only getting better. And, and I know how committed the company is as a whole to getting it like really, really strong. So a lot of money and a lot of resources have been invested in Command. It is the only CRM platform that was built, internally by a real estate company. So,
And Carlos and Justin can help us with that.
yes,
Okay, good.
yep.
Got action.
So as far as value add and things that you, market to your
you guys can say
sphere
that.
and to your audience, I think
Thanks.
it's also important to know your audience, know what kind of clients that you're looking for, just, as Rod was saying. For example, like my farm is a neighborhood that's like deep rooted, really hard to break in, very community based. So the kind of outreach that I have are like food drives, school functions, a volunteer, being part of the board, like really, that kind of stuff. And it's taken at least 5 years to generate business that way. But, you really have to know your audience and know, what motivates them and what you can do to serve them where you're authentic,
Agree, 100% agree. So going back to, before I move on to the next slide, I talked about value adds. You guys are familiar with what I mean when I say value, right? So you're using something of value like Renew Concierge Service. That could be a value add where you can get with Justin and Carlos and they can create a nice ad that highlights some key points about the Renew Concierge Service, right? And then those out of area property owners, that I talked about, you can target those ads in front of those individuals. Those are like two examples of of value ads. Now, brand awareness ads, again, going to this audience of, identified sellers or property owners that hopefully one day will become sellers, is just sold, just listed, open houses, anything unique, testimonials, right? Testimonials that you had from a recent client. Those are all brand awareness ads that you can utilize and leverage to your advantage. Coming soons, it keeps you in front of these individuals as that area expert. Market updates can also be shared with a link that they can click through and get access to. The other also thing that I failed to mention is when these leads start to come in and they raise their hand, in Command, you're going to see your little icons with the bubble that says 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Those are going to be your leads that are responding back, and you need to follow up with those people. You need to engage with them and communicate with them. The other great thing about once these people click and they come through and they engage with your ads, you already have them in your system. They don't know that. They just think they're seeing this Aegis ads all the time. They think they're seeing you everywhere, right? Well, the great thing about that is that you can set up smart plans to then also be automated to continue to engage and develop rapport, which is something as simple as sending them a market update every month. They can receive that through Command as a smart plan tactic, just FYI. So using value ads and brand awareness ads to develop your name, your presence in front of these potential, sellers that maybe one day will reach out to you because they saw that you've been running just solds or just listeds, or you've been running market reports, or they've been receiving your information consistently, they're consistently seeing your ads. Those individuals over time are going to reach out to you. How do I know it? Because I'm a living example. I'm not telling you something I haven't done, I haven't spent my money or time on, or doesn't work, else I wouldn't be here. So it does take time to set these things up, which I think in the beginning can be intimidating for a lot of people. And they wind up just saying the heck with it because it takes too much time. But like anything else, you're making an investment. So, you have to make sure, you're honest with yourself to say, I'm going to be able to commit to this. And like I said, if you have to delegate and bring people in, do that. It's only going to take you maybe a week, 2 weeks to get this all fine tuned. It takes you a month. Who cares? Take your time, get it set up. But once it's done, it's done. All you're doing is going in and making certain tweaks, changing out ads, content, paying attention to the ads that you're running, seeing what your engagement level is, what you can do through in Command. It actually gives you weekly updates to tell you how good your ads are running and which ones you want to spend more money on. The old days, you used to have to test and go in and actually look at the numbers, whereas Command puts it right there in front of you on the dashboard. It tells you, here are your top performing ads. So it's a great tool. And using this method, I've been able to develop the level of business amongst the type of clients I want to work with, which if most of you know me, I focus on your sports and entertainment clients. Now, it took me, 3.5 years when I got here to start landing my first clients. So for 18 months, I didn't make no money, but I was committed to this. And I was spending the money to build up the brand awareness, the value ads that I was running, not in front of property owners, but in front of sports agents, in front of business attorneys, in front of the players themselves, who I had their names, phone numbers, and contacts. So after time and time again and seeing my ads and seeing my content, guess what? My phone started to ring right around that 24, going into 2.5 years. And everything took off from there. So in 2019, we did 11 transactions between 9 athletes here in Los Angeles. Well, one was in Sacramento, but that all came from sharing this tactic that I've shared with you by simply uploading my sphere of influence into Facebook. At the time we didn't have Command. I did this the hard way. So now you guys have you got Command. It makes it a lot easier to be able to set these things up. So moving forward, I did highlight that commandsetup.com is where you want to go when you want to actually upload these contacts into Command. It's very simple and easy. You write notes and tell them specifically what you want. Let them know the names that you want to tag each group with, and they'll take care of it from there. And then usually it takes about 24 to 48 hours turnaround. And you just go in and you'll be able to identify your targeted groups inside of Command on the back end.
Questions?
Yeah, just backtracking, like, okay, so getting all of your contacts uploaded into Facebook, your spheres, and then you want to do the targeting of the zip codes or whatever niche you want to target, and then getting that information from a title rep, and then having Bullseye upload that.
Mhm.
But so far, we're just talking about Facebook, am I right?
It's Instagram and Facebook's the same. They
Instagram
both
and
both.
Facebook?
Yep.
Okay. so
Those
get
ads are
it
gonna run
all
to both.
Uploaded.
Mhm.
But do you put it into command? Do you go to Bullseye first, or do I put it into command first?
You gotta identify the data. That's
Right.
where branding comes in, or you have your own sphere, right? And then you upload that data into command setup, and they're gonna create it in, because what happens is if you try to upload it in a normal CVS, they have to format it. And they'll format it for you for free, or else it won't recognize for some reason in command. It just doesn't. I don't know why, but that's why I hand it over to them, and they'll format it to the CVS that is compatible with command.
Mhm.
And then from there, when you go to run your ads and you have the option to select a target audience or to select basically a specified audience that you've tagged, you'll see them populate. And then, or you basically just start typing the name in and they'll populate in there, and then you select them.
So are these ads that are gonna lead them back to your Facebook page or your website?
It's gonna lead them back right into command. So when they engage with that ad,
Yeah.
it's gonna capture that lead. It's gonna give you their name, phone number, and email address.
Okay.
You already have that information. They don't know that, but
Right.
maybe there might be a new number or phone number or email that you didn't have.
Right.
That is populated in there. So that's great. So now they're already in your database. So at that point, they're gonna populate as a lead if they've engaged with that ad. And then at that point, you can follow up with them and set them up on smart plans.
And smart plans are through command as well?
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
Yep. So moving on, I know we're time restricted, so I want to wrap this up in the next 25 minutes, and feel free to chime in on anything, Nikki. Type of ads, what type of ads are we talking about? The goal is to provide value while building your brand awareness to the audience you seek to work with, which we touched on. Value ads, I talked about what value ads are about, and they can also be used for buyer leads as well, not just sellers, depending on where your business is at, where you want to target. If you're someone that's generating a lot of buyer leads, just do the reverse. Have value ads that provide value to buyers, right? And that are engaging. What are things that the buyers are going to be interested in, as opposed to a just listen or just slow? Hey, this company is having an open house. You can use our own office listings and let them know there's going to be open houses if you're sitting in those open houses, right? So you have to figure out what values are going to, what's going to be valuable to that audience of buyers, and create those ads and put those ads in front of them. Brand awareness ads, I touched on that. So moving forward, so here's examples of what the ads can look like. So it's just something as simple as the ad with the testimonial. I ran this in front of a targeted zip code in Brentwood, and we engaged, it was probably like 1,100 people. Out of that, we generated about 35 leads, right? 2 serious individuals, the rest are just kind of kicking tires, have some questions, maybe thinking about selling, but that's great, because now we have those additional contacts, and those people are in our system. And now from that point, they can now see my email newsletter. So that drips on. So they get the email newsletter, they continue to see our ads, and then we also market to them offline, which I'll get into next, what that looks like. So these ads that you see here, one's a testimonial, one's the renewed concierge service. And then the one for the sports and entertainment, the last one, you see this collage. I only ran that ad in front of my sports and entertainment contacts. Because what did that do is just reinforces that I have a presence in this space and we're servicing this level of clients. So that's another example. Any questions?
Yeah, I think so. With Renew, is that the KW concierge service?
Correct.
Is that the same one?
Correct.
So you use that
Mhm.
and you've been happy with it?
Yep, made money, it works, try it.
Maybe, Rod, just quickly for 2 minutes, just talk about the concierge, because I have a feeling not everybody knows what that is in the office, what the, you know.
Does everybody have a general concept of the renewed concierge service? Raise your hand if you don't. If you don't have a real understanding of it, raise your hand.
I
Okay.
don't. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So basically the renewed concierge service is a great product that we offer here at this office. It's actually better than Compass and the other competing brands, because they basically what they issue is a
And
credit
Rod was
card.
at Compass, so
Yeah.
he speaks from.
Basically, they issue what's basically like a credit card, right? And then you have whether that is a limit or a certain amount that you have to spend, and it's on the actual property owner and the agent to hire the vendors, the contractors, and deal with all of that, which can be a complete pain in the ass. It's not something I want to do, nor am I interested in doing, because I've been down that road. What's different about Renew is that it's a concierge service where they actually have a concierge rep that steps in and helps manage the project. So let's say, for instance, your client wants to remodel their kitchen. So they're gonna come in and we're gonna talk about, is it even necessary to remodel this kitchen? Does it make sense? What are the parts of the home maybe we can focus on that's gonna give more bang for the buck? But once you identify what scope of work is gonna be done to enhance the value of the property, that concierge rep is gonna be in full communication with the property owner from the time they start the work until it's completed, okay? So once that work is completed and we get the property sold, then what happens is the difference is what's owed for the work is taken out at the close of escrow. Okay, so they have to have at least, what was it, 10 or 20% or more equity in the property. And basically it's a soft credit pool. It's not a hard credit pool, but it is a soft credit pool. They cannot be in foreclosure, or meaning they can't have an NOD or NOT. So they have to be in good standing with their mortgage. You can do staging with this program as well. Someone, you want to take advantage of having an opportunity to say, hey, we can actually stage your home, and the pricing is somewhat still a little bit higher than what you're going to find in some other staging companies. But let's say that that's an issue. They don't have the money and they're comfortable paying that additional, difference at the close of escrow. There are people that may choose to do that. So you can use that to your advantage to talk to someone about, hey, I think staging your home is what it's going to take to get your property sold. And we have a great program that can step in and front the cost for that up front, which takes a lot of pressure and stress off that seller, right? And then it makes you look great, makes the home look great. The property sells a lot sooner than it would if it didn't have staging.
Yeah, so what if somebody has a client that's older and when you walk in their home, they have literally kept everything that they have collected in their lifetime? And everything is just scattered around. Would this be the service that you'd go to like help it turn into something that's more presentable for when clients do walkthroughs and you do photos and everything?
Yeah, well, anytime I'm having a conversation, an example like what you're sharing with a property owner like that, one, I really identify they're really serious about selling their home.
Yeah.
You got to really identify that they're willing to do what it takes to get the property sold. And if they answer those questions, yes, then I say, hey, I've got a recommendation, something I think that will definitely help enhance the value of the property. Are you interested in having that discussion? Then they say yes. Then we go into having a discussion about, we need to basically, I always tell people, depersonalize the home. Take all your personal stuff off the walls, photos, all of those things. If they're willing to do that, let's start with a clean palette and let's focus on bringing in the designers and what things need to take place to enhance the value of this property. And if they're open to having that conversation and moving forward, then we get it done. If they're not, you got to surface the objections and figure out why and really determine, are they really motivated to sell their home? And if there is some pullback or pushback, figure out what that is and why. But yes, I would recommend it and I would present it given the fact, because that's what you're there to do. You're there to help them because they don't know, right? You're there to help them understand this is what it's going to take to sell your home, and I have value that I can offer you in regards to helping you do that.
You want to maximize their net takeaway, right? And if they don't have the capital to do some improvements that you think you're going to get a multiple return on that money invested, right? In many cases, that is the case. And they don't have the cash to do it, then you're going to obviously spend 100 to get, an extra 175 at the end, and then you got to factor in the timing. But most of this stuff, is within, 60 days of the work getting done.
We just
So-
want to make it as easy as possible for the seller and remove all objections as possible.
Correct.
Like if they say, oh, I don't have $30,000 to pay for staging and painting and all of that, you remove that objection and say, we'll pay for it. And then upfront, and then, we'll take it out of the closing at the end, and as far as, an older seller, like what you're saying, or somebody who's been there and their house is archaic, a lot like what Rod was talking about, a lot of this is very psychological for somebody to move on from, a property that they've lived in forever. So you really have to be patient and come from a place of service and listen and know what their true fears are so that you can, step in and help hold their hand and guide them through that sale.
So as we move towards, because I know Nikki has a few slides, what I wanted to share, this is just an example of what I also touched on. When you have, everybody's familiar with what I stated about brand awareness, right? Value ads, brand awareness ads, setting up your digital forms and targeting those people with ads, right? Well, there's an offline approach that you want to take too, and that's utilizing postcards. People think postcards are dead. They're actually not. Just most of them suck. right? Honest, just, you gotta test things, you gotta constantly be working at figuring out what's gonna engage the target audience, because everything doesn't work for everybody. So if it's a certain area in a certain community, you should know what the post, like Nikki said, what is the culture of that community? What do people like? What things engage them, and incorporate that into your offline marketing, right? So if I'm going after expireds in a particular area that offers certain types of homes to affluent, high-end, potential buyers, I'm going to focus on messaging that's going to capture their attention in my postcards. So the offline approach is that now they're going to see your ads, right? Constantly. Now, if you're talking about property owners, you're sending them postcards. Now they're getting the offline touch as well too. That's another additional touch. And you can schedule that to go out every 60 days, every quarter, whatever your budget allows every month, touching them with these postcards on a consistent basis. I have 4 different ones that I use, and I rotate them through my list basically every 2 months. They're getting a postcard and they're getting my ads regularly. Now it's an investment, and I know that going in, but I've seen the results on what the returns are, and I've already made my money back, so I'm not tripping. I'm going to continue moving forward with what I'm doing. So you just have to get past that in the beginning. If you don't see results immediately, don't stop doing it. It just takes time, because it's about the timing of the individuals, where they are in their lives, and the conversations that you're having with them.
People are so impressed when they see you online, and then they inquire about something. So you end up getting their information, and then you send them a magazine, with your name on it. It's like you become real, because here's your online presence, and it's kind of like one-dimensional. And all of a sudden they open their mail and they see your postcard or your newsletter or something, and it's like, wow. And then can you imagine when you actually door knock and they see you? It's like you're kind of like a superhero, and it really blows people away when you have that target audience that you're actually like farming.
Correct. And basically the ads and what Nikki is sharing, I mean, you think about how do you make a decision on who you're going to use, who you're going to work with, right? Usually revolves around some level of trust. Somebody's referring you someone that you know, like, and trust, or these are people that you know, like, and trust. And the only other way to build trust with any human being or anyone else, your dog, whatever, is through consistency. No matter what I tell you, you're going to watch what I do, and you're going to look at my actions. And then you're going to make your formulated judgment about what type of person I am. So all this is doing is setting you up to stand out and build consistency of trust with these individuals over an extended period of time. And it's a great way to leverage what we offer here, or what KW offers to the agents in this community, within this office. And I think, across the nation, whoever chooses to engage with it, it's automation. Once you set it up, this stuff's on autopilot. So I wake up in the mornings, and usually the 2, 3, 4 hours of my day, I'm just sitting here responding to emails, or going back in command and responding to the people that are messaging me and responding back to my ads or having questions, and just focus on building a rapport. It's never a quick sell. It's never like, hey, you want to get out and go look at homes, or hey, you ready to list your home with me? It's like, I respond to their question, ask more questions, continue to ask questions, and then work towards, I always offer, you want to meet in person for coffee? You want to go have a lunch, or you want to set up a Zoom call and talk about it? And I just work through that process until they're comfortable enough that they're at a place where they're ready to move forward and do business.
You can always create opportunities to meet people in person, like, I don't know, party, I had like a yoga day once, you just make up anything, or a day where you can meet them and they bring, all their old paperwork, and you just shred paperwork together, there's always an opportunity and a way to actually meet these people in person. And once you do, it is so powerful, and they just won't forget you. And like Rod said, you just have to be consistent and always check in, and and be authentic.
Yep.
In your own way.
And focus on the ones that are, you make a connection with, the ones that are responding, the ones that are engaging. You may have some people, they don't respond right away quickly. Don't take it personal, but I follow up with people until they tell me, no, leave me the hell alone, go away, or they opt out, right? And that's the beauty of this automation, is that your face is constantly being in front of them. If you take the offline approach and implement that, once you have the budget with the postcards, letters, other forms of marketing material, that just reinforces value adds in a printed format versus digital. Now you're doubling down.
Can I ask about your postcards? Like, what kind of budget does that look like?
Yeah, so we basically we'll send out about every 60 days, about 1,200. So roughly it's costing me about $500.
For 1,200?
You can talk with Justin. I order my cards right here through the office. It's very inexpensive. Justin does the design work, sets it up. It's quick, and they come in, I pick them up, and we have someone that we send them to, and they send them out to the list. And you can automate that too. Brian can help you with that. He knows great people that can help you with getting your postcards or letters automated. All you're doing is sending it to them with the labels, and they'll ship it right out or mail it to where you can use every door direct. You look up EDD and, talk with, sorry, I said Brian, talk with Brandon, and he can help you guys with that if you have questions.
Need resources, there's a lot of good printers out there that streamline the whole thing.
And Lauren is also really great at that too. Both of these guys have been part of our office or have been coming for a very long time, and they know exactly how, they know exactly what to do, and they're happy to help.
Well, you had some examples, so we're up on your slides.
Yeah, so I mean, so whenever I make property videos, they're never videos, they're like movies with like a storyline. And that's one way for me to actually capture the attention of people online. And when I make these property movies, they're not necessarily targeted to the buyer, so these are my listings. I'm targeting sellers, I want sellers to see this and go, wow, she's really, putting in a great effort with super high quality. And so, those are the people I'm targeting whenever I make these. And so, once I get interaction with people with these, then they go into my database. So, I mean, that's one thing that I really pride myself with is, my
Do you
marketing
have
movies.
a sample of your?
Yes, sure.
I'm trying to, I got it.
Yeah,
playing,
so
but
I
it's not.
mean, I don't know, I'll send it to everyone here. If you email me, but
How long are they typically?
so we have a short version and we
You guys
have
can just click on
a
the.
larger. This,
Carlos, are you? Sorry.
So my husband happens to be in the film industry, which is why I'm able to do this. But we go all out with our marketing.
Or I know.
So to make these anywhere from like $3,000 to $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. But for us, it's, it's worth it for us, you really have to decide what's best for you. And not every single listing I do has this type of movie, but I would say a good chunk of my properties do. I definitely invest. So the next slide.
I have a question.
Mhm.
How do you differentiate between which clients, which sellers will get a movie like this versus another client that may not? And how are you adjusting your marketing and consultation initially based on the purchase price, or based on the list price, or how are you making that determination?
That's a really good question. I think it's a lot of things. It's also like our timeline, if we even have time to do this kind of list or this kind of movie. And, the selling price, what the profit margin will be for me. It's a lot of things.
Okay.
But even if they don't have this type of movie, they get a high quality video.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example how you can leverage, right? To answer that question. Just as I just shared, you can take a list of property owners. Say you got, this is your listing, right? And you shot this video. Coming soon would be a brand awareness ad for your brand. So you would want to put this ad in front of all the property owners that you have those records for and say, this property is coming soon. It's going to be open at this date and time. Click here to register. That's how you leverage. It's to your advantage. You spent that money. Now go double down and let everybody else know what great property you're having. So now you're capturing opportunity for buyers and you present yourself as a neighborhood specialist that they're looking at that video. And I've taken the same approach that I'm sharing with them. I got a $2 million listing down in San Diego because I ran the same type of ad. The lady who I ended up working with, she said her agent before didn't present this type of video and that's what she was looking for. So that's how you leverage.
So is this your video that are we gonna see it?
Yes, do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanna see it.
Do you want to, we probably have time for one.
I don't know why it's not.
Well, Nikki, if you go to like Nikki Baskin on YouTube.
Yeah.
Won't they come out?
Yes, so
Well, let's show
actually.
one.
Yeah. no,
Yeah.
Okay.
I have it up right here.
Okay.
Let me just
Here,
do
let's
this.
just- I don't know if my
The
phone.
volume's not playing no more, but
Oh, but what about people that are on Zoom?
Yeah.
They can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love for you guys to show it, but in the interest of time, because we only have 5 minutes left and this is a
So,
4-minute.
okay, so Alex is doing it through the front, right? That's probably why. Which one should I tell him to click on?
Either one,
right or
go
left, it don't matter.
So while we're waiting for that, the next slide, we'll come back to this movie.
Okay.
But,
That's fine. I'll go to the next slide. The next slide is up, which is you have your examples of your flyers.
I think I just wanted to show that, I'm really consistent with my,
That face that is usually covered by her phone has finally made an appearance. Where is our home? Our home is where our memories live. Our home is the place where we share our dearest moments with the people we love the most. Our home is the place where every room contains a piece of us. It is in our home where we can dream
okay. Very moving.
and it is in our home where we can create.
These are just my property flyers. I have a very consistent back.
Our home is the place that gives us comfort. In our home, there's a place for every moment
The same way. Sometimes it's a
and
good
for every memory. In our home, there's a place for us. And
Okay, this is an example of like an intentional kind of marketing. So for my neighborhood, I did a food drive and we had an amazing response. And it's a great way for you to actually meet the people that, they know you online, they've received your magazines or newsletters, they know you're part of the community, and now you get to meet them at this food drive. And, the response was incredible. And people remember that, So, that's just an example of, one of many things that you can do to always be, top of mind.
Yeah, and this would be considered, if you wanted to use this from a digital standpoint, in front of your farm, in the area that you're doing a drive, it would be considered as a brand awareness ad, something that continues to put, you working in the community, providing value to those individuals that you're seeking to serve and people that live in the neighborhood. All right. Closing, I think this one's the last one. We talked about basically how to secure the data. Brandon can assist you with that. I outlined, when you're pulling the records of property owners, you want to try to focus on people that have owned for 5 or more years. You can also focus on NODs and NOTs. That's notice of trustee sales, and then there's notice of default. Notice of default comes first, then notice of trustee sale. Those are people that are obviously facing foreclosure. I made a lot of money in the early 2008 to about 2014, just working just with these people only. So that is reemerging. It's happening again. So if you want to be someone that gets a curve on the market and you feel like that's a niche that you want to dive into, those can be a great source of leads. And also you can focus on the ones that own properties out of state. Which you'll probably have a greater success rate, because it's harder, I'll be honest, with people that are NOTs and in the state of California, NODs, to get them to leave their homes. Now that there's new workout options as far as loan mods, things like that, people are going to be more apt to want to stay on their property, rightfully so. But for people that live out of state, they may be ready to cut bait, especially if they have equity. And you can share with them, now is still a good time to sell your home, even though you're in the current condition, and here's how I can help you. So NOTs and NODs would be great. Next move, movers, those are people that usually own 7 years or more. They're more likely to move. Brandon can tell you more about that. And then empty nesters are great. You got people that are older, baby boomers that are downsizing, kids are out of the home. They're looking to maybe relocate to different parts of the county, or maybe relocate outside of the city. And you feel like you are great at communicating with these individuals and making connection with them. That could be another great target audience to go after. Expireds, for sale by owners, you can create lists and target these individuals too, based upon your skill set. Like, this list doesn't just have to be sellers. You can make it whoever you want to go after and whoever you want to build that rapport with and become that, local expert or authority in your marketplace. Get the data of those individuals and use this same technique, and you'll find results over a period, short. And sometimes it may take an extended period of time, but you will start to see results. I use the term KISS, keep it simple. Don't overwhelm yourself with having to do a lot in the beginning. Start with just baby steps. This week, I'm going to implement A, B, C. Next week or the following week, I'm going to implement, E, F, G, et cetera, et cetera. Just take your time as you go through the process. I think sometimes we try to get everything done right away and we get overwhelmed and burned out. So you may say, I'm going to take 4 weeks to get this all set up. Just chip away at it week by week. And once it's done, it's done. One of the things I think I'll add when I talked about the offline things that we do, which is the postcards. We also do buyer letters for areas that we actually have buyers in. So we use a red envelope. I found that to be very effective. You can mail this to the same list of people I'm talking to you about that are out of area, that have equity and own properties in a zip code that you want to target, and let them know that you have buyers seeking to buy in their neighborhood. These can create potential off-market opportunities. Just another way to keep your name and your presence in front of these individuals. We mail bi-weekly postcards. We do the letters, bi-monthly as well. And we target the same audience that I was just sharing with you, expireds. We do out of area property owners. We target people within certain affluent communities and zip codes. And then we also use our Renew service. We mail that in a packet out to people as well, and targeted zip codes that we're going after. We know those homes basically meet the criteria for this type of a program.
So it would be impossible to do all this without a system like Command. Like you can't possibly think of all of this and stay on top of it.
Yep.
So that's why Command and just a CRM and being consistent is super important. I think just pick something or pick 2 things, try it, and just be as consistent as possible.
Yep. And the last thing I'll share with you is Slide Broadcast. It's basically a ringless voicemail system that you can use. Obviously, you only want to make sure you're sending this out to people that are on a do not call list. And you can obviously source that information through records. But I use this to leave voicemails. It could be, hey, we have coming soon. We have an open house. Hey, we have a buyer in your area. Hey, I noticed your property just recently came off the market. Whatever it is, you can set these automated voicemails up and they will go directly to those cell phones. The phone does not ring. They just see that they have a voice message. And this is a great feature to use. It's very inexpensive. I think it's like, I don't know, a couple of cents or more per voicemail that goes out. So you basically, once you upload, you get credit. So say for instance, you got $100, it just goes through that $100 so it's time to re-upload from your reports from your credit card. And then what you're doing with this live broadcast is you're just basically uploading CSVs into their system, tagging them, and then you're recording the voicemail that you want to go out, and you're sending that message out, and you can automate it. So if you want to send messages out certain times of the month, week, year, you can do that and set it, and you can set messages to go out in 2022, and they'll be on deck ready to go at that point in time. It's done. So it's another great way to automate your business and make contact with people, and then work towards getting those inbound leads coming back to you when they respond to the voicemails.
Another great thing to automate are GIFs. So I use a system called AvaBot, and I input my clients whom I want to send gifts to automatically, their email address. They get an email, they just fill in what, when their birthday is. They know it's from me or my assistant, AvaBot. And every year they get a gift. It's so simple, and you don't even have to think about it. AvaBot. EVABOT.
So in closing, what I'll leave you with, when you start running these ads, you're going to see two things happen. One, you're going to generate leads. The other is you're going to start seeing followers trickle in, because those people, if they find your ads to be engaging, they're going to tag people in the ads. If you ever notice, they'll put @ in the comment section, which means they're tagging somebody else that they know that they think should see the ad. So what ends up happening is you'll start getting engagement. That's the second thing. And the third, sure to follow, is typically going to be followers. So in running ads, you can basically do those three things. You can basically have individuals tagging your post, and then you can have, the opportunity to follow up with those people that are tagged. And then you're also going to see those individuals starting to follow you as well too. So you can gain some benefit from it too, as well, in building your presence online.
Have you ever used RedX?
Yep. I've used RedX, and I was going to note that we have RedX and Mojo Dollar, which I prefer Mojo Dollar over RedX. Both of them are pretty much the same. You can pull data and expireds and records, phone numbers from Mojo Dollar. I think it's like $80 or so a month now, maybe 90. It was 70 something when I got in, but I think it's more money now. But this, you can actually also, if you're a dollar and you're someone that wants to dial, those same records that I gave you, that I'm sharing with you, that you upload in command, you can put these individuals in the Mojo Dollar. Now, if you want to hit them up on the phones in person, you can do that as well too. Now you have something to talk about, saying, hey, I sent you a mailer, or whatever the case may be. You're on our newsletter list. We just wanted to touch base, but whatever your communication is, you can use Mojo Dollar to touch a large number of people, or RedX. But I like Mojo better.
Are they the same price or?
No,
or-
RedX is more money. I think RedX is over $150 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions?
That's it. Any questions? We're done.
Can you guys do this again? It was so good, but it's a lot.
It's a lot of
It's
information.
It's a lot of information. I'll ask you guys questions. Do you find value in the information? You're not gonna hurt my feelings if you say no.
I actually have a comment to make, and I have a question for Rob.
Sure.
What I got out of it, which was amazing, thank you both, is that you two are extremely focused and on target on your advertising and what goes out of your office. Like, you have specific vision of who you're targeting, which I think it's extremely important.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's why you two are extremely successful, because it's like you envision the end result, and that's how you start your advertising or sponsorship. That's fabulous.
I always say the journey can be slow in the beginning, but the progress must remain consistent at all times. If you keep that mindset, don't pay attention to what everybody else is doing. Remember, if you're in this business, you're in this business. This business is like wine. It gets better over time if you're being consistent. So don't just focus on the numbers when you're starting out. Focus on what you're putting out, your effort and your attention to detail and your focus. And what you'll find is the years add up fast. So year 5, you started out at 0, and now you're one of the top producers. Whatever that means in your market, doesn't matter, as long as you're happy with the results and you're living the type of life you want to live. Just stay engaged with that type of mentality, and you'll generate the level of business that's needed for you to be sustainable and grow your career over time.
And you guys, what Rod and Nikki have said, sustainability, consistency, play the long game and have a focus. Don't try to be everything to everyone. That's like the key to it all. Like, and it's overwhelming when you're new, because you're seeing all these things. You gotta pick, and Rod said it, pick a lane. Doesn't mean that's gonna always be the lane forever, but stay committed to that lane then you'll start to see results when you embrace the process. And then over time, you can start to diversify and what have you. But that's the key. It's like, don't try to be everything to everyone. Stay consistent and recognize that what you do now, you will not see the results of till some point in the future. That delayed gratification piece that most people miss. And they don't see the result and they give up and they turn back around. They just, it's a vicious cycle and they go nowhere.
Yeah, I tell everybody it's quarter by quarter. What you do this quarter is for next quarter. What you do the following quarter is for the following quarter,
Yep.
so on and so on and so forth. If you look at it like, I look at it like sports. There's 4 quarters in basketball. Just break it down quarter by quarter. Some quarters your ass might be up and then you might be down. But it's about the average over time and the discipline and the structure that you apply to what you're doing. Just take it quarter by quarter.
And don't be afraid to try, knowing you're gonna stumble and fail and make mistakes and ask questions. Like, that's the beauty of like the environment here. These guys will help you anytime. Like, believe me, I know that. Like, and if you're not willing to take the initiative and ask the questions, then no one's gonna chase you down and provide it to you. You gotta take the initiative. And when you engage, you will thrive. But that's where most people also fall short.
Kathy's also in the ALC and she's
Yeah.
always here to help too.
And I just gotta point out, as Kathy's here,
Do everything that I
that's crap, because we're doing great.
don't do everything
Yeah,
that I
but the
do.
humility is also part of the whole equation, and that's what all these guys are. No matter how successful you are, there's always opportunity to get better and learn from other people, because Kathy does some things extraordinary well, and Nikki does some things extraordinary well, and Rod does, and they're not all the same things by any means. So always be learning, right? No matter how good you, and that's honestly where most people fall short. They taste some success and they think they know it all, and they become complacent, and their learning curve completely flattens or drops.
Yep, agree.
Do you
None of us
focus on
is as smart as
any,
all of us, pure and simple. Go ahead.
Say it again.
do you focus on trying to get leads in a particular area the way she does? Like, no, you just.
I just focus on a certain audience. So I have an extensive database and I just focus on generating referrals and leads from that audience.
So let me say this, some agents, and again, there are infinite paths to success. I say it all the time, right? Which is knowing what you do well, such that you'll do it consistently and find your path.
Yeah.
Learn from others, but you can apply to your own path. Like Rod does it a little bit differently than Nikki, that does it a little bit differently than Kat, and that's okay. That's the whole point. And that also tells you that there's plenty to go around for everyone.
And I do it just because I mean, I had some success doing most of the generic things, but also if you don't like something, don't fucking do it. Like, focus on what you're gonna be consistent with. Forget what everybody else is telling you gotta do. Find the things that you can be consistent with, that you enjoy, and double down on that. And then as you develop your skills, you can expand and decide what other things you want to get into doing. But if you know you like doing that, do that. Because you're going to sustain it way more than trying to do something because you're being told that's what you got to do to get business.
Well said. Yeah. Pick your lane, but do it with consistency and make a commitment.
There are top agents that don't even have a website.
Yep.
And all they do are go to events. That's
That's
the
it.
thing. They just go to events, give 10 cards, follow up, that's it. So whatever,
Everything works with consistency. That's
whatever
always
it
what
is,
you
just
know.
be consistent.
Yep. That's it. Well, that's it. That's all we have to share for today.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for showing up.
Thank you.
It's good.
This was so good, you guys.
I love you. Thanks,
Thank
Kathy.
you, Kathy.
Do you have a business card?
I don't, but I can give you my number.
Yeah.
Tell you my number.
You work out of the surface, right?
Yeah, I'm not here a lot, but I'm on the go a lot. So
Do you have a group?
I do. I have it's 8 of us. I have 8 or 7 machines.
You don't do anything, right?
Okay.
I mean, I help everybody. I can help. I talk to, like, I have a lot of people that I work to talk to and help them with business. So anything I can do, I help.
Where do you sit, Rob?
Take care.
His office don't yet?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I want to connect with you.
Yeah, I'll give you my number.
Yeah, because they told me.
What's your number?
281 797.
Airbnb or whatever they want.
What's your name?
Ron. Shoot me a text. Ron Watson.
Rod Watson, right?
Ron Watson.
It's sentimental.
I guess KW helped you set up.
They said if you're
Yeah,
gonna.
I just ran myself, shoot me a text, over here under his ride watching.
And then I'm
You're right.
working on it, I'm
You don't
working
need
on
to
it.
the NODs and all that.
I've done them.
You've done it, but not now.
Not now.
I'm on
When I used to
You
focus
you
on,
listing. You
I
listing,
focus
right?
on just acquiring listings.
You get sellers, right? You get sellers.
It's hard. You know, it's just hard. No, but she's a new girl that came in. She's good.
Yeah, she had like 2 years.
Yeah, she's good. Definitely a good person to connect to.
Very good, man.
Let me just get this over what she's doing.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Yep.
Thank you, Rod.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Let me give
that's-
you my card.
Like the ALC, your house is right next to that.
No, that's the house.
Presentation, man.
Thanks, man.
Like it, thanks for that. Good out.
Yeah, I'm on too.
I understand, but I will check.
Thank you, Rod.
What's he selling? What's he selling? That was good, really. appreciate it.
Yeah.
Rod, the listing that you have, those are like expensive. You have like things, multi-unit,
My
or
backyard
tear
is-
down.
We've sold everything. I have a commercial
You have
division, so
anything
we've done
else? You have commercial
multi-family.
division?
Yeah, I have a young lady who runs that.
See, like, I don't.
We've like.
But you don't come to the office. You
I
have,
do. I come in, yeah. I
you have
just,
you have a section in your place or no?
I don't have a section here, but I'll come in.
Then what are the agents work from
Yeah,
home?
since COVID, I just haven't been in the office.
Good to see you.
So you do have a commercial.
Yeah, we do have a commercial division, yeah.
If I want to join your commercial, can I do it?
Let's talk. Let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk. I do this. I was off for like a year and a half. I own Airbnbs.
Awesome.
Very lucrative.
Yeah.
So I leave a little bit off of that, but I want to also get involved. Residential, I can't compete with the ladies. Maybe commercial, or
Let's talk about
maybe,
it. Let's
like
have
I said, I
talk.
go to events because I'm with the listings and give out cards and try to get listings.
Let's have
I do
coffee.
Airbnbs too. I'm real, I do Airbnbs
You do
too.
Airbnb too? You own property?
Yes, it's
Listen,
so
you guys-
lucrative.
My wife,
You guys do any flips or anything?
I've done a few, not heavy, not on my own,
I'm
but clients that
interested.
I've
I'm
done
interested.
with.
Do you guys want to open LLCs and do flips?
I don't have no money right now. to do flips.
You don't need
Right?
money.
But
You can
if you,
borrow the money.
but if you got people that can borrow it, I
We
got
can
projects
borrow
we can
the
do
money.
it.
We can borrow the money.
Yeah, let's talk.
I have a guy, 7%. Flips in 6 months, 7% pays for the rehab, 1 point.
Let's talk.
That's cheap. I want to talk to you.
Let's do it.
Very nice meeting you.
You too, my man.
I want to get a quick picture. I'm trying to think of a new spot.
I want to get a quick picture.
Yeah. I don't know. That's what I'm deciding. What do you think, Nikki?
You know good.
We go to the live, to
Yeah, maybe
the
the front,
lobby.
yeah, yeah. This is-
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
You ready?
How you doing, baby?
Quiet,
I'm trying to
good,
get the
Little guy.